what was the toughest part of being in the back of the house?
The yelling.
Okay.
I don't like being yelled at. I don't like being talked to sideways. I don't even if it wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes in a bad mood, or if someone piss him off, then now the whole entire back of the house, or
the energy,
especially the food runners, everyone is going to feel it.
Hi, welcome to the Modern Waiter Podcast. I'm Marlon Joseph, the Modern Waiter, where we discuss all things restaurant business. Learn something, laugh at something. On today's episode, it is back to front. We will talk to Webb Pascal about his restaurant journey from the back of the house to the front of the house. But first, the intro.
Tired of working deadbeat jobs for lame pay. I'm tired of getting fired and hired the same day. If you know the rules of the game, then you'll stay.
As usual, I'm joined by my good friend Danny DeVilla.
What's up, people?
Welcome, Mr. Webb.
What's up, my man? Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I believe we had him on Shift Drinks.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
We need to start figuring out Shift Drinks again.
We do.
I've always wanted to. I came from the back of the house as well, but that was many, many, many moons ago. The restaurant business as a whole has really morphed into some things. And so I've always wanted to highlight the restaurant industry, and we are all servers here now, but you in particular have some expertise because you started in the back of the house. And that's what we're going to talk about today because
Marlon goes to me the other day, he goes, "You're going to have Webb on the show, we're going to talk about when he's back in the house." He said, "Back of the what?" I forgot for a minute.
Tell everyone, how did you even get into the restaurant in the first place?
So my dad car broke down on him.
Okay.
And so apparently I had to drop him off, and I kept asking him. I said, "Hey, can you get me a job? I need a job." Because at that time, man, I was working at American Eagle.
Okay.
And the way
retail.
Yeah, the way that retailers work is either they like you enough to squeeze you in on the schedule when they are short on hours, and apparently they stopped putting me on the schedule, and I had to call in to figure out, hey, if they had any hours for me today or anything of that sort. So at some point, man, I got tired of it. I was like, you know what, man, I need to find a new job.
Okay, so that's interesting because it's hard to imagine that they would be that bougie about it. Right? Because people, it's hard to find.
Yeah, now
it's hard to find people. So what year was this?
Man, that was like 2009, 2010.
That's when people were still going to malls.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and the worst part is, man, it was all the way at Sawgrass Mall.
Okay, so that's
therefore,
far from you.
It's a long drive. So I dropped my dad off, and I saw the executive chef was outside. So I went into my dad went inside. I went and go talk to him. I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Do you have any open position?" Then he was like, "You know what? There's someone who's going away to for college in 2 weeks.
Okay,
come back." I didn't tell my dad anything. I just
sounds like he didn't want you working there.
No, I mean, he really did not want me to work in the restaurant business.
Okay,
he just didn't want to, and I'm like, why?
Okay,
so and I started. Fun fact, I actually did not start in the back of the house.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually started as a busser, and then the executive chef took a liking unto me and started putting me, he put me on a schedule for a couple shifts a week to food run.
Okay.
And then, so now they ended up having to share me from the front and the back.
All right. So now this is interesting. You were a busser first.
Yes. Was
the food running shifts a level up for you? Was it making more money or what?
No, man, it's the same amount of money except the fact that I'd say that you work a little less because as a busser, consistently you running the whole entire time.
True.
And you don't get to leave until the last guest actually leaves.
True.
So you have to stay back and and take the trash out and clean up and do all of those things. Whereas as a food runner, 10:30, 11 o'clock, you are done, and you clean up your station, and you just go hang out outside and just wait for your money man at the end of the night.
As far as the functioning of back of the house and front of the house, usually the bussers don't really have to talk to any guests. They don't have to do any sales. They don't have to really deal with that side of it. Some do. At some restaurants, the bussers have an elevated responsibility. Sometimes they have to sell the waters and things like that, and then pass that on. But I wasn't necessarily. I forgot that you had either I blocked it out that you were ever even a busser, but for me, the bulk of the beginning for you was food running.
Absolutely.
All right, so take me from that point. How long were you a busser before you ended up food running?
It didn't take me a year.
Okay.
For them to actually start putting me on the food runner schedule. Okay. And I think they started me off with one. Then they saw how good I was. Then they bump it up to 2 or 3, and then I still had about 3 or 4 shifts as far as a busser. And the toughest part was, can you imagine? I mean, a 19-year-old kid, you just started, man, in the restaurant business, and the chef is just, man, in your ear and yelling and calling out food and it's like dude, does all this yelling actually required to get the job done? So
was it intimidating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you're still learning the food, you're still learning the sauces that goes on and the garnishes and the microgreens and the leeks and the this and the that, and you have to remember all of those things. Yes. And although you do have an expo, but
a lot of times the expo isn't there dedicated 100% for the food runner. Yes. So food runners, I believe that to be a tough job because you really have to know a lot. Yeah. You have to present well in the front of the house. Yes. And you really have to know every little garnish, how the garnish is oriented on the dish, the layering of the dish. The presentation is very detailed.
And you have to pay attention to if there's a allergy or if there's any modifications been on that entree, and you drop the wrong entree to the wrong table, to the wrong person, then you have issues.
Yeah. So you have to be very sensitive to understanding that this dish may look like the normal dish, but you have to make sure that you're in constant communication.
Absolutely.
All right.
That was the tricky part because it's already a lot learning all of the ingredients, man, and things like that. And then now when they throw you a curveball with the modifications, and at time the whole entire ticket come out red. And you're like, oh, I said, here we go again.
My man said like, the ticket comes out red. All the modifications are in a different color.
Like, come on.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said the chef was in your ear, right? Now, what was your impression of the chef at the time? You don't have to tell me who it was because I already know. But what was some kitchens are tough, and so the first person that's really gonna get that thing is the food runner or the cooks on the line. What do you think was the blast of getting the blast of the wrath?
I think it's the food runner.
Okay.
One of his biggest pet peeves was if the presentation was not there.
That chef
he was
very much
big
about
on presentation.
Big time.
Oh, it was great.
He would stop it going out.
Yeah, I love
it. To the table. He'd be like, in the front of the house.
Be like, hold up.
Yeah. He'll call the food on over.
Get him here.
And then he'll
what is this?
The plate's got to be
clean.
Well
clean.
Layered, like he said.
Yes.
It was beautiful. It was art.
It was my first experience with the presentation being vertical as opposed to clock face, because the old chef that we had was very old school, and the protein, starch, and vegetables were very much in that
spread apart.
That clock face orientation. And then this chef came and literally elevated everything, and then you had the crispy this built on top of the.
He was building plates.
He was building plates.
It was the first time. Even for me, that just seeing like real plate building.
Yes.
You know, it went from being food to art.
To art.
And that's where you knew you had leveled up on the way too.
And you had the colors.
Yeah.
You had the flavors.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
It really was.
And the compliments were flowing in.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that he took pride of knowing that, okay, it's my name, man, that's on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
I put these ingredients together, and it needs to be a certain way, and it needs to be consistent. Because I could remember running a heavy tray, and got stopped as I'm making it right by the service bar.
Yeah.
Like, oh, stop. Now you got to drop the tray, man, and hold it, and then he has to inspect every entree.
Yeah.
If there was something, man, that was it's as a kid, man, I'm going crazy. I said, it's like, why are you doing this? But now looking at it, I love the fact that he had this standard of excellence when it comes to his food going out of the kitchen, because it's a representation of himself.
Absolutely.
So
now, what was the toughest part of being in the back of the house?
The yelling.
Okay.
I don't like being yelled at. I don't like being talked to sideways. I don't even if it wasn't my fault. If he comes in a bad mood, or if someone pissed him off, then now the whole entire back of the house, or
the energy,
especially the food runners, everyone is going to feel it, because there's room for very little errors. You could go ahead and throw Graceman at the window.
Gotcha.
Because today's not the day.
Interesting. And what was your impression of the front of the house, particularly bar staff and waiter staff, while you were in the back of the house? What was your lens, the window that you looked through?
They complain too much.
Not wrong.
They complain too much.
Not wrong.
I don't know if you could remember. I think it was either you or Denny. And it was like, hey, I think you should become a waiter, man, and things. And I said, man, these guys complain too much, man. They bitch too much, man. I want nothing to do with all of this right there. But as I got older,
what was the number one complaint point that you, if you remember at all?
Sometimes the guests. And I think if you've been doing this, if you've done this long enough, you used to getting things your way, or you used to doing things a certain way, and when they take you out of your routine, then now it's like everyone is throwing tantrums.
So then you're getting yelled at in the back of the house, and you're like, what the hell is this guy complaining about?
I'm like, dude, what are you complaining about? But it's like, you come in at 4:30, and you leave before us, and you make the most amount of money.
Oh, yeah, because you guys as food runners, you had to prep all the garnishes.
Exactly.
You had a fair amount of prep work to do.
Oh, they had to prep
Sauces at that.
Prep and stay.
Yeah. That's wild.
Clean up and
You
break
make
down.
the sauces. You make the sauces. You prep all the garnishes, and you have a whole entire setup when it comes to the soup, and the microgreens and the leeks and the chives and all of these things have to be chopped. And if the consistency was not there, the executive chef would come in and just look at it and says,
You gotta redo this.
who chopped this? and then you have to redo it. So it's definitely a learning curve.
Gotcha. Well, if you're enjoying our show, definitely give us a like. Subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, that really helps us out. That helps us to grow. So if you're listening to us at any point and you say, "Hey, this resonates," there's a share button. Share it to somebody that you think that enjoys the show. Tell them you listen to the Modern Waiter podcast and it was pretty cool. And take me now to the transition. Okay, what was the catalyst for you moving forward into the front of the house now? How long were you in the back of the house?
He was back in the house for a minute.
Yes, I was there for about a good 4 years.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
4 years, yeah.
Doggone
And
it.
he had even asked to be pushed up. And management at the time didn't. And then we had a manager come in and moved him up and saw his potential. And yeah.
I tell you, I that particular manager, requested of me to, hey, give me a good referral or bring someone in to go ahead and take your spot, because you're really good at what you do here. We don't really want to go ahead and transition you to another position, and then where your spot now is vacant. So I brought someone in, and then he actually ended up being really good.
Okay.
And I don't want to throw any names. So as I'm walking by the bar, and he was talking to one of the waiters and one or two guests, and then I heard, I will never move Webb up. And then I said, okay. So now I went and looked for another job, which actually ended up not working out. And I was like, what is this? I was like,
what was the other job?
It was at it's a placement in Boca.
Was it a restaurant job or,
yes.
or a retail job?
Nah, man, it was a restaurant job. Come on, man, you can't go back to the retail, man.
He was already making cash.
I don't really wage you know what I'm saying? But I'm used to making cash.
Okay.
So
you had barriers. So you had barriers to entry.
Yes.
Like you wanted to be on the other side, so to speak, and
he was learning. He was teaching himself. I remember that. He was like, yo, let me put these orders in for you. Let me run these credit cards. Let me start to learn the computer.
Yes.
What are these wines, Danny? You know, teach me this, that, and the third. So when it is time, I can transition, because you already knew the menu.
Yes.
You know, perfectly, obviously. You know, he'd been there for a while. He already knew the food. Obviously, he was cutting up everything. He knew what the hell was going on.
Yes.
And he knew the menu better than half my servers. So it was great because he knew the menu, and he would be like, you know, anybody need something, like, if you need to go talk to a guest about a description, I got you, Danny, or you want this, let me know. I'd be like, all right, yeah. I was like, I see you.
So I tell you what Denny used to do. So Denny would take a whole bunch of tables, especially in the transition, because that's how you make your money, from like lunch to dinner. So you really max out. Because waiters want to go ahead and get out of here, and you know what I'm saying. So he would be buried, and then he would look at me. All right, go to this table, take the order, drop off the drinks, pick this up at the bar, do this, and I'd have the order in my hands. Then he was like, "You know what the number is." so
wow,
I'd go in there,
nice work,
and I'd put in the whole entire order, and everything would come out accurate. Man, I knew the computer stuff, but that I didn't get promoted until that particular manager got fired, which happened to be months later. And then our really good friend came in, and the first thing I did, I stood up to him, I said, hey, I've been here for X amount of time, and this is what I've been doing, this is what I've been doing. I'd like to become a waiter. And he said, got it, man, I'll work on it. And then there you have it.
Okay, so now you really educated yourself and pushed yourself to get out of the kitchen, so to speak, to become a server.
Absolutely.
And I remember giving you like bottles of wine to open up, and teaching you how to open the wine, how to present it, how to pour it, and things like that. And this is all while you're not coming in. This is all while you're actually food running as well. Yeah. So that's a very important go-getter.
He took initiative.
Yes, he really did take initiative, because I've met people that say, hey, you know, they won't make me a server, you know, and I said, listen, you need to, by any means necessary, find your way onto it. And at the time, the lunch wasn't that good, so it's like, work lunches, you know, just say, hey, I'll only work lunch. Once you get that, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah,
that's it. And then even if you don't have space at that restaurant, you're a server now. You can go anywhere with experience.
Absolutely.
And the world is your oyster. And they're not going to want to lose you if you prove yourself valuable.
Yeah.
So what's during now the transition, take me to the early transition into a server. What did you find that was particularly easy for you?
The fact that I already knew the food.
Okay.
So that was my strong point right there. I could talk about the food with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I can describe it well, and plus I'm a people's person, so that works out into my advantage. But at the same time, I didn't really know much as far as when it comes to the drinks. So what I would do, I'd go to Publix, I'd go to the wine aisle, and they would have the description of the wines up there as far as for Sauvignon Blanc and for Pinot Grigio and Cab, and I'd take the picture, and then I'd go home and do my research and to figure out what are the flavor profiles for this, what are the flavor profiles for that, and I'd ask a whole bunch of questions. I wouldn't go to management. I'd go to either you or Denny or Kevin Shipe, and then I'd pay attention. And then I pay attention to guys like Kevin Shipe, because Kevin Shipe had a beautiful spiel. You stood up there, man. I mean, I said, man, I'm gonna add that to my arsenal.
That happens a lot when you're next to somebody and you hear and you like what they how they describe something. You're like, ooh, I like that. I learned something today.
Yeah.
So
now, what did you find was particularly your weak point or challenge for you once you were on the floor? What was your biggest?
I didn't necessarily have the confidence yet in my skill set as a whole.
Okay.
Because I'm moving into a new position. I know my areas of lack. So I guess knowing myself, I zero in. I put a magnifying glass, man, on my areas of weaknesses instead of focusing on my strength.
Okay.
So that causes a little bit of a
it stunted your growth a little bit at the same time?
I mean, it stunted my growth a little bit, but once I figured it out and I started to get comfortable and knowing certain things, it was a wrap.
What's the hardest thing at that time dealing with people? Now you're dealing with people. You didn't have to talk to people before. You just said, please enjoy, and you were out.
My facial expression. Because they have a mind of its own. Man, it has a mind of its own. Because, at times when I just could not hide the frustration. And I had to learn to, to tell my face to get it together and actually still smile. Because by nature, man, I'm a pretty polite guy. I'd like to think. So when you really push it to like it's like man, I'm looking at you like, what's going on here? I am giving you everything, all the attention. What else do you want from me? So
they require pain.
Oh. And they try to make it seamless, but it's not.
Soul sucking pain. That's what they want out of you.
Absolutely.
But as long as I've been doing it now, I've learned to tell people to, to back off without necessarily telling them to back off.
The same way you were that look in your eyes goes the other way as well.
True.
The same, you can flip it to where they can kind of look like, okay, we're good.
Oh, my favorite is when the latecomer. Your party is already here and you just showed up.
And they're trying to get
you want to go ahead and act like the boss and you need to get this or you need to you just got here.
Yeah, man.
These people have been sitting here. They settled in. They got their drinks.
Yeah.
We've already established a solid relationship here. Yeah. And you trying to come over here and bust me around? No.
All right, now let's look back now. Now you're a server. You've been a server for a while. How long would you say you were a server after your 4-year stint in the back of the house at the one place?
I worked there for 9 years, almost 10 years.
Okay.
So
you did about 5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years, almost 6.
So now let's say it's like year 1 or year 2. How were you then viewed by the back of the house?
I think they viewed me pretty well because I had just left the back of the house. So I know exactly what goes on back there. And I would always go back and help out. Because what happened is majority of us...
I see you.
Yeah, majority of us, once we've been serving for a while, we kind of sort of have this tunnel vision of, my station, my side work, or everything I have going on that is pertaining to me, and not being mindful of those who are actually back there, and in case if they need in extra hands, or in case if they need to grab something, if they ran out of the sauce and I'd run in the cooler man and get it. Yeah. So these are all these small little things that I never elevated myself above them since once upon a time and I was there.
Now, did you do that because you were once one of them, or did you do that to make sure that you curried favor? Because you're always going to need
both.
a favor. Okay.
Both. Because
I get you.
Because that one time you completely forgot to put in your food.
They got you.
And we're like, all right, man, I need this favor. Like, I am 25 minutes out.
They got you.
Yeah.
I need this
5 minutes. I need it in 5 minutes.
I need this in 5 minutes, even if you have to take somebody else's food from another ticket. I mean, I need you to make this happen. But once again, if you don't have that type of relationship and you are not that polite,
it's another 25 minutes.
Then you're screwed.
Now you're fully in the restaurant business, front of the house, back of the house. What did your dad think? Like, knowing that he didn't want you to work in the restaurant business, like what was that like for him? Because now that's a transition.
True.
Basically, his mindset was he didn't want me to get stuck in the biz because now I'm making cash.
Yeah.
I'm making money. Now the motivation to actually go to college and finish and following through and actually getting a 9-to-5, so to speak, as far as a career. Not saying that we are not career waiters.
I get it.
Yeah, but that was his mindset, and once he saw how well I was doing, I managed my money. I still come home. I didn't really change. I still went to school.
Yeah.
And so he had no choice. I mean, at this point, it wasn't him that got me the job. True. What are you gonna do about it?
True.
So,
and that's basically not basically. That's exactly why we do the show.
Absolutely.
Because whether it's parents or society or whatever the case may be, they look at it as, like you used the word, stuck. You don't want to be stuck doing this or stuck doing that. But you own your own house. You have a family.
Yeah.
A rather big family. You support them all. And so we do this show because we want to highlight the restaurant industry as a legitimate way
to make money,
to make a living. And so that's very interesting and very cool that you're able to make that point, because that's a pride point for me to be able to transition that mindset
to the world.
To the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so now we both know that you don't work there any longer. Why did you end up leaving? What was the catalyst for that?
After a certain amount of years, I think it just requires a new scenery, change, and plus with the level of dysfunctionality at that place, man, I was just tired of it, man. I saw that it was bringing a different side of me that I didn't necessarily like. So. And plus, around that time, they had just sold the place.
Okay.
So because I could remember we were having the conversation, and you kept saying that, hey, you don't even see me here, man, anymore. I've already transitioned.
That's when what Webb's referring to is when I left.
Yes, I remember you left.
And so it took about just under a year. Where I didn't know how it was going to happen. But I didn't want servers or complainers. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I didn't want to complain any longer, because we choose every action that we do. My phrase is, hey, man, I drove here. So if I'm going to choose to be here, I can't then complain. So what I decided to do was change my mindset, say, hey, I don't work here anymore. I'm here. Yeah. But I'm somewhere else, and I started to transition. I moved on. I transitioned my mind first, and so when Webb, not saying that you complained, but when I would hear such things or whatever, and
I used to complain. You don't have to be nice about it, man. I used to complain, and then he would look at me dead in my face and say, dude, I don't work here no more. And I'd be like, oh, shit. So the moment he started saying that, and it got to me, I said, you know what? I need to find a way to get the heck up and out of here because I just don't like it here anymore.
Yeah.
And I just had to go. So you transitioned, and I think a little less than a year or a year after, I transitioned into the same place which we work now.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad that I actually paid attention enough to see that, okay, when it was time to move on, that I didn't just remain there and just be miserable.
The thing I want to be fair is that the place didn't change.
No.
I did. So, and I don't want to paint the picture of, oh, it's dysfunctional, whatever. What I experienced there probably happens a lot of different places.
Of course.
So it wasn't that place. It's just me. I wanted a little bit more.
In life, you phased out.
Yes. In life, I phased out because I was there for a very long time. And so as I started to change, and the same thing happened with my relationship too. It was me that
was changing.
And I required a different space. A full change, yeah. So that's what it was. I like to be fair about things, and it wasn't like, because you still work there, and truth be told, you have a lot of advantages being there, having gone through some of the changes, the dysfunction and the changes and things like that, which those things have dissipated and no longer exist in that same way. And so, yeah, that's
a great perspective, because I was noticing, well, now looking back, it wasn't really the place. It was me.
Yeah.
I was growing, I was evolving, and felt like back then I didn't know I actually just hit that ceiling where I wanted more.
Yeah.
Or I wanted better. Like the better version of myself was requiring better.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the place, just like you said. So but it's crazy now how now we are having this perspective, because back then I didn't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah.
I'm saying I saw every little thing and the changes and the inconsistency of this and that, and I saw that. I was like, you know what, this is not working out anymore. But although, man, I am grateful for where I started.
Listen, that I have gotten many advantages for working there. It has taught me how to deal with things. I've met lifelong friends there.
Yes.
And to this day, we're going to a baby shower, and I had to change a shift around, stuff like that. And then Jimmy said to me, "You want to go to a baby shower?" And I look back, and the two people met. Well, they didn't meet there, but they grew up there.
Yeah.
And then
they were kids.
They were kids.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
They were kids to me. They helped me in my romantic journey through my wedding, my kids, baby shower, and all that stuff. And they live not far from me. So that place has given me so much. And one of the managers, he's going to be there, and he doesn't work there anymore. So it really has built me a family and a life. You know,
yeah.
So that's how rich that place was anyway. And people that come there and work there always say, "Oh my gosh," because I don't know why, but that place ends up changing you to where you end up being a family.
Yeah,
like, people care about you. People call you. People are there for you. And obviously, I haven't worked everywhere, but people that have worked other places, like, either you like it or you don't. But it's a weird place to be. But there are so many real hard hooked connections.
Yeah, for sure.
That are there, without a doubt.
Yeah, like you know, I've known you guys for, man, I mean, it's been 13 years. Yeah,
Long
13
time.
years. So you guys have practically played Big Brother role all along. I mean, from knowing what to do, what not to do, or how to. I am grateful for the long life friends that actually made at that place. So I could never really sit here, man, and say that I did not benefit as much as I could possibly can from that place. So it is a really good perspective to have, though.
Now let's leave on this one. Give anyone who's wanting to transition from the back of the house to the front of the house your best advice, and then we'll wrap it up on that.
First thing first, there's no way that if you are not punctual, you're not a hard worker, and you slack off at work, that they would actually want to go ahead and promote you.
Okay.
That doesn't work.
Okay.
So you must be really good at what you do at the current position, and of course there has to be an elevation that takes place in your mind before it actually happens. Mm-hmm. So you gotta have a change of mindset, and the third one would be to have an open mind as far as to be able to to learn.
Okay.
Because if you're not flexible, if you think that the same things that work in the back of the house works in the front of the house, it just doesn't work that way.
A whole different ballgame.
Yeah. True.
It's different ballgame. So
thank you so much.
That would be my advice.
That is very. That's
good advice.
Yeah, that's definitely a show that I've always wanted to cover.
Absolutely.
So you really did a good thing. And so I know I said we're going to let you go on this. You have ventured into the podcast world.
Yes.
And tell everybody what your project is.
So it's Backyard Convo Podcast, mm-hmm. and it's more gearing towards the religious sector.
Okay.
And but it has been a journey, learning a lot, and then and actually finding out that there's still a lot more to learn, and just trying to navigate through the first season right now. And it has been quite a journey. I am enjoying the process as far as the content. Mm-hmm. I haven't fallen in love with the actual the lighting, the cameras, and the editing, and I'm just not a tech type of person. So that's where I'm actually struggling right now, which I actually have to apply myself to actually dive deep in and to get to know all these different parts, all these different moving parts that actually makes a successful podcast.
All right. Backyard Convos. So, thank you so much, Mr. Webb.
Thank you guys for having me.
Webb.
Long time coming.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And for those of you out there who have transitioned from the back of the house to the front of the house or vice versa, let me know about it. Write it in the comments or email me. I'm themodernwaiter@gmail.com, or follow me on Instagram @themodernwaiterpodcast. I'm Marlon Joseph, the Modern Waiter.
I'm Danny Villas, subscribe, people.
We will see you next time.
Later.